And it seems that we are live. Hello, my dears. Thank you for joining me for another reading session today. So, I have to do one quick thing on my Twitter account. So, just give me one moment. Okay, it looks like it is all good to go now. So, once again, thank you, my darlings, for joining me today. So, I am going to be reading Chapter 6 of The Last Unicorn. But first, let me adjust a couple things. Alright, so before we begin, I have some incense for us today. So these sticks are sandalwood, and this one, it was unlabeled, but I think it might be a mixture of lavender or lotus. It might have been an incense called Moon, but it's been a moment since I've looked at it. So, here we go. I am very fond of sandalwood. It might be one of my favorite scents. In fact, it is so beloved by me that when I send off any of my Etsy shop physical items, I have some specialized, personalized boxes that I send them out in, along with handwritten letters and things like that. But in the box, I will spray a little bit of sandalwood so that people can smell it and associate it with me. Alright, so, as I said before, Chapter 6 of The Last Unicorn. In Chapter 5, we saw our dear magician friend Smendrick get into a little bit of trouble with some bandits. The majority of them are now gone due to a playful little trick that he accidentally performed, and now he finds himself tied to a tree. So, from there, we shall continue. I think I should start putting a bookmark in. It's taking me a moment longer to properly find the page. And so begins Chapter 6. Captain Cully fell asleep 13 stanzas into the 19th song, and Schmidrick, who had stopped laughing somewhat sooner, promptly set about trying to free himself. Oh, I see I just received a follower from Amundal. I'm so sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly, my dear. Amundal? But thank you so much for following me. You are helping me get that much closer to my goal of affiliate, and you've joined at a good time. We have only just started the reading. Now, where was I? He strained against his bonds with all his strength, but they held fast. Jack Jingly had wrapped him in enough rope to rig a small schooner and tied knots the size of skulls. Oh, they were kind enough to send me a message. Amunda. But it is all right. Everyone struggles with my name. Much love for this book. Yes, very much so. It has always held a fondness in my heart. Thus, why I've decided to read it, as you could assume. The story is so lovely, even in its melancholy, and the movie was quite beautifully done as well. So, once again, thank you, Amundal. Amundal says it's a beautiful story. Yes, it truly is. That's why I've been trying to read it in the hopes of encouraging more people to know of this lovely story. Alright. Tied knots the size of skulls. Gently, he counseled himself. No man with the power to summon Robin Hood, indeed, to create him, can be bound for long. A word, a wish, and this tree must be an acorn on a branch again. This rope be green in a marsh. But he knew before he called on it that whatever had visited him for a moment was gone again, leaving only an ache where it had been. He felt like an abandoned chrysalis. Do as you will, he said softly. Captain Cully roused at his voice and sang the 14th stanza. There are 50 swords about the house, and 50 more within, and I do fear me, Captain, they are like to do us sin. Had done, says Captain Cully, and never fear again, for they may be 100 swords, but we are 7 men. I hope you get slaughtered, the magician told him, but Cully was asleep again. Schmidrick attempted a few simple spells for escaping, but he could not use his hands, and he had no more heart for tricks. What happened instead was that the tree fell in love with him and began to murmur fondly of the joy to be found in the eternal embrace of a red oak. Always, always, it sighed, faithfulness beyond any man's deserving. I will keep the color of your eyes when no other in the world remembers your name. There is no immortality but a tree's love. Oh, I see I have a message from Big Mac Cakes. And they say, hey, some big bone guy said I should come by. Well, thank you, my dear, for stopping by. It's always lovely to see a new face around. Where was I? Alright. And it is funny in this paragraph what they are talking about with the tree's love. As in the movie, it became quite vivacious and it was quite amusing to see. Amundal says, not an affiliate yet. Let me see if I can help that a touch. If you would like, feel free to reach out after the stream. But until then, just let me do this. Oh, well, thank you, my dear. You needn't do anything, though. Although, getting those last couple followers would be exciting to do, but I don't want any of you to feel pressured or anything. Oh. Well, thank you, Big Mac Cakes. That is truly so kind of you to follow. Now, where was I? Ah, yes. I'm engaged, Schmendrick excused himself, to a Western larch. Since childhood. Marriage by contract. No choice in the matter. Hopeless. Our story is never to be. A gust of fury shook the oak as though a storm were coming to it alone. Gulls and fire blights on her, it whispered savagely. Darn soft wood, cursed conifer, deceitful evergreen, she'll never have you. We will perish together, and all trees shall treasure our tragedy. Along his length, Schmendrick could feel the tree heaving like a heart, and he feared that it might actually split in two with rage. The ropes were growing steadily tighter around him, and the night was beginning to turn red and yellow. He tried to explain to the oak that love was generous precisely because it could never be immortal. And then he tried to yell for Captain Cully, but he could only make a small... Oh. Well, thank you, my dear Azriel, the underscore 412. Thank you so much for following me. I do greatly appreciate it. And I do hope that I pronounced your name correctly, or at the very least, to your liking. Now, where was I? Oh, Amundal says, pardon, I don't mean to distract from your stream. You just have fallen victim to the fact I found another VTuber who needs to get pushed to affiliate. Oh, you needn't apologize for anything, my dear. It truly does humble me that you were kind enough to follow me. Okay. I was here. But he could only make a small, creaking sound, like a tree. She means well, he thought, and gave himself up for loved. Then the ropes went slack as he lunged against them, and he fell to the ground on his back, wriggling for air. The unicorn stood over him, dark as blood in his darkened vision. She touched him with her horn. When he could rise, she turned away, and the magician followed her, wary of the oak, though it was once again still as any tree that had never loved. The sky was still black, but it was a watery darkness through which Schmendrick could see the violet dawn swimming. Hard silver clouds were melting as the sky grew warm. Shadows dulled, sounds lost their shape, and shapes had not yet decided what they were going to be that day. Even the wind wondered about itself. "Did you see me?" he asked the unicorn. "Were you watching? Did you see what I made?" "Yes," she answered. "It was true magic." The loss came back, cold and bitter as a sword. "It's gone now," he said. "I had it. It had me. But it's gone now. I couldn't hold it." The unicorn floated on before him, silent as a feather. Close by, a familiar voice said, "Leaving us so early, magician? The men will be sorry they missed you." He turned and saw Molly Grew leaning against a tree. Dress and dirty hair tattered alike, bare feet bleeding and beslimed, she gave him a bat's grin. "Surprise," she said. "It's Maid Marian." Then she saw the unicorn. She neither moved nor spoke, but her tawny eyes were suddenly big with tears. For a long moment she did not move. Then each fist seized a handful of her hem, and she warped her knees into a kind of trembling crouch. Her ankles were crossed and her eyes were lowered, but for all that it took Schmendrick another moment to realize that Molly Grew was curtsying. He burst out laughing, and Molly sprang up, red from hairline to throat hollow. "Where have you been?" she cried. "Darn you, where have you been?" She took a few steps towards Schmendrick, but she was looking beyond him at the unicorn. When she tried to get by, the magician stood in her way. "Don't you talk like that," he told her, still uncertain that Molly had recognized the unicorn. "Don't you know how to behave, woman? You don't curtsy either." But Molly pushed him aside and went up to the unicorn, scolding her as though she were a strayed milk cow. "Where have you been?" Before the whiteness and the shining horn, Molly shrank to a shrilling beetle, but this time it was the unicorn's old dark eyes that looked down. "I am here now," she said at last. Molly laughed with her lips flat. "And what good is it to me that you're here now? Where were you 20 years ago? 10 years ago? How dare you? How dare you come to me now, when I am this?" With a flap of her hand, she summed herself up. Barren face, desert eyes, and yellowing heart. "I wish you had never come. Why do you come now?" The tears began to slide down the sides of her nose. The unicorn made no reply, and Schmendrick said, "She is the last. She is the last unicorn in the world." "She may be," Molly sniffed. "It would be the last unicorn in the world that came to Molly Grew." She reached up then to lay her hand on the unicorn's cheek, but both of them flinched a little, and the touch came to rest on the swift, shivering place under the jaw. Molly said, "It's all right. I forgive you." Unicorns are to not be forgiven. The magician felt himself growing giddy with jealousy, not only of the touch, but of something like a secret that was moving between Molly and the unicorn. "Unicorns are for beginnings," he said, "for innocence and purity, for newness. Unicorns are for young girls." Molly was stroking the unicorn's throat as timidly as though she were blind. She dried her grimy tears on the white mane. "You don't know much about unicorns," she said. The sky was jade gray now, and the trees that had drawn on the dark a moment ago were real trees again, hissing in the dawn wind. Schmendrick said coldly, looking at the unicorn, "We must go." Molly agreed promptly. "Aye, before the men stumble on us and slit your throat for cheating them, the poor lads." She looked over her shoulder. "I had some things I wanted to take, but they don't matter now. I'm ready." Schmendrick barred her way again and stepped forward. "You can't come with us. We are on a quest." His voice and eyes were as stern as he could make them, but he could feel his nose being bewildered. He had never been able to discipline his nose. Molly's own face closed like a castle against him, trundling out the guns and slings and cauldrons of boiling lead. "And who are you to say we?" "I'm her guide," the magician said importantly. The unicorn made a soft, wondering sound, like a cat calling her kittens. Molly laughed aloud and made it back. You don't know much about unicorns, she repeated. She's letting you travel with her, though I can't think why. But she has no need of you. She doesn't need me either, heaven knows, but she'll take me too. Ask her. The unicorn made the soft sound again, and the castle of Molly's face lowered the drawbridge and threw wide even its deepest keep. Ask her, she said. Hydration break. Schmendrick knew the unicorn's answer by the sinking in his heart. He meant to be wise, but then his envy and emptiness hurt him, and he heard himself cry out sadly, Never, I forbid it. I, Schmendrick the magician. His voice darkened, and even his nose grew menacing. Be wary of rousing a wizard's wrath. Rousing. If I choose to turn you into a frog. I would laugh myself sick, said Molly pleasantly. You're handy with fairy tales, but you can't turn cream into butter. Her eyes gleamed with a sudden, mean understanding. Have sense, man, she said. What were you going to do with the last unicorn in the world? Keep her in a cage. The magician turned away to keep Molly from seeing his face. He did not look directly at the unicorn, but stole small sights of her as stealthily as though he could be made to put them back. White and secret, morning-horned, she regarded him with piercing gentleness, but he could not touch her. He said to the thin woman, You don't even know where we are bound. Oh, I see we have another follower. Ra the Crow. Thank you so much, my dear, for joining me. My goodness, that's quite a lot of people following within one stream. Thank you, my lovelies, for doing so. Now, where was I? Do you think it matters to me? Molly asked. She made this cat sound once more. Schmendrick said, We are journeying to the King Haggard's country to find the Red Bull. Molly's skin was frightened for a moment, but whatever her bones believed or her heart knew. But then the unicorn breathed softly into her cupped hand, and Molly smiled as she closed her fingers on the warmth. Well, you are going the wrong way, she said. The sun was rising as she led them back the way they had come. Past Cully, still slumped asleep on his stump, across the clearing and away. The men were returning. Dead branches cracked close at hand. Brush broke with a splashing sound. Once they had to crouch among the thorns while two of Cully's weary rogues limped by, wondering bitterly whether the vision of Robin Hood had been real or not. "I smelled them," the first man was saying. "Eyes are easy to deceive, and cheats by nature. But surely no shadow has a smell." "The eyes are prejurors, right enough," grunted the second man, who seemed to be wearing a swamp. "But do you truly trust the testimony of your ears, of your nose, the roots of your tongue? Not I, my friend. The universe lies to our senses, and they lie to us. And how can we ourselves be anything but liars? For myself, I trust neither message nor messenger, neither what I'm told nor what I see. There may be truth somewhere, but it never gets down to me." "Oh," Amundal says, "I love this passage." Yes, the moments with Molly Grew and her meeting with the unicorn are quite moving to those who understand. "Ah," said the first man with a black grin, "but you came running with the rest of us to go with Robin Hood. And you hunted for him all night, crying and calling like the rest of us. Why not save yourself the trouble if you know better?" Amundal continues to say, "The exploration of reality and legendary is so well done. It truly is. If someone reads deeply into this book, there are many themes and meanings that can truly be pondered deeply upon." "Well, you never know," the other answered thickly, spitting mud. "I could be wrong." There were a prince and a princess sitting by a stream in a wooded valley. Their 7 servants had set up a scarlet canopy beneath the tree, and the royal young couple ate a box lunch that, to the accompaniment of lutes and theorbo, they hardly spoke a word to one another until they had finished the meal. And then the princess sighed and said, "Well, I suppose I best get with this silly business over with." The prince began to read a magazine. "You might at least," said the princess. But the prince kept on reading. The princess made a sign to 2 of the servants, who began to play an older music on their lutes. She took a few steps on the grass, held up a bridle bright as butter, and called, "Here, unicorn, here, here, my pretty, here to me. Come, 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 come." The prince snickered. "It's not your chickens you're calling, you know," he remarked without looking up. "Why don't you sing something instead of clucking like that?" "Well, I'm doing the best I can," the princess cried. "I've never called one of these things before." But after a little silence, she began to sing. I am a king's daughter, and if I cared to care, the moon that has no mistress would flutter in my hair. No one dares to cherish what I choose to crave. Never have I hungered that I did not have. I am a king's daughter, and I grow old within the prison of my person, the shackles of my skin. And I would run away and beg her door to door, just to see your shadow once and nevermore. So she sang and sang again, and then she called, Nice unicorn, pretty, 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 for a little longer. And then she said angrily, Well, I've done as much as I'll do. I'm going home. The prince yawned and folded his magazine. You satisfied custom well enough, he told her, and no one expected more than that. It's just a formality. Now we can be married. Yes, the princess said, now we can be married. The servants began to pack everything away again, while the two with the lutes played joyous wedding music. The princess's voice was a little sad and defiant as she said, If there really were such things as unicorns, one would have come to me. I called as sweetly as anyone could, and I had the golden bridle. And of course I am pure and untouched. For all of me you are, the prince answered indifferently. As I say, you satisfy custom. You don't satisfy my father, but then neither do I. What would take a unicorn? That would take a unicorn. He was tall, and his face was as soft and pleasant as a marshmallow. When they and their retinue were gone, the unicorn came out of the wood, followed by Molly and the magician, and took up her journey again. A long time later, wandering in another country where there were no streams and nothing green, Molly asked her why she had not gone to the princess's song. Schmendrick drew near to listen to the answer, though he stayed on his side of the unicorn. He never walked on Molly's side. The unicorn said, That king's daughter would never have run away to see my shadow. If I had shown myself and she had known me, she would have been more frightened than if she had seen a dragon. For no one makes promises to a dragon. I remember that once it never mattered to me whether or not princesses meant when they sang. I went to them all and laid my head in their laps, and a few of them rode on my back, though most were afraid. But I have no time for them now, princesses or kitchen maids. I have no time. Molly said something strange then, for a woman who had never slept a night through without waking many times to see if the unicorn was still there, and whose dreams were all of golden bridles and gentle young thieves. It's the princesses who have no time, she said. The sky spins and drags everything along with it. The princesses and magicians and poor Cully and all. But you stand still You never see anything just once. I wish you could be a princess for a little while, or a flower, or a duck, something that can't wait. She sang a verse of a doleful, limping song, halting after each line as she tried to recall the next. Who has choices need not choose. We must who have none. We can love, but what we lose. What is gone is gone. Schmendrick peered over the unicorn's back into Molly's territory. Where did you hear that song? He demanded. It was the first he had spoken to her since the dawn when she had joined the journey. Molly shook her head. I don't remember. I've known it a long time. The land had grown leaner day by day, and they traveled on, and the faces of the folk they met had grown bitter with the brown grass. But to the unicorn's eyes, Molly was becoming a softer country, full of pools and caves, where old flowers came burning out of the ground. Under the dirt and indifference, she appeared only 37 or 38 years old, no older than Schmendrick's surly, despite the magician's birthday-laus face. Her rough hair bloomed, her skin quickened, and her voice was nearly as gentle to all things as it was when she spoke to the unicorn. The eyes would never be joyous, any more than they could ever turn green or blue, but they too had wakened in the earth. She walked eagerly into King Haggard's realm on bare, blistered feet, and she sang often. And far away, on the other side of the unicorn, Schmendrick the magician stalked in silence. His black cloak was sprouting holes, coming undone, and so was he. The rain that renewed Molly did not fall on him, and he seemed ever more parched and deserted, like the land itself. The unicorn could not heal him. A touch of her horn could have brought him back from death, but over despair she had no power, nor over magic that had come and gone. So they journeyed together, following the fleeting darkness into a wind that tasted like nails. The rind of the country cracked, and the flesh of it peeled back into the gullies and ravines, shriveled into scabby hills. The sky was so high and pale that it disappeared during the day, and the unicorn sometimes thought that the three of them might look as blind and helpless as slugs in the sunlight, with their log or their dank rock tumbled away. But she was a unicorn still, with a unicorn's way of growing more beautiful in evil times and places. Even the breath of the toads that grumbled in the ditches and the dead trees stopped when they saw her. Hydration break. Toads would have been more hospitable than the sullen folk of Haggard's country. Their villages lay bald as bones between knife-like hills where nothing grew, and they themselves had hearts unmistakably as sour as boiled beer. Their children stoned strangers into town, and their dogs chased them out again. Several of the dogs never returned, for Schmendrick had developed a quick hand and a taste for mongrel. This infuriated the townsmen, as no mere thief would have done. They gave nothing away, and they knew that their enemies were those who did. The unicorn was weary of human beings, watching her companions as they slept, seeing the shadows of their dreams scurry over their faces. She would feel herself bending under the heaviness of knowing their names. Then she would run until morning would ease the ache. Swifter than rain, swift as loss, racing to catch up with the time when she had known nothing at all but the sweetness of being herself. Often then, between the rush of one breath and the reach of another, it came to her that Schmendrick and Molly were long dead, and King Haggard as well, and the Red Bull met and mastered so long ago that the grandchildren of the stars that had seen it all happening were withering now, turning to coal, and that she was still the only unicorn left in the world. Then, one owlless autumn evening, they rounded a ridge and saw the castle. It crept into the sky from the far side of the long, deep valley, thin and twisted, bristling with thorny turrets, dark and jagged as a giant's grin. Molly laughed outright, but the unicorn shivered, for to her the crooked towers seemed to be groping towards her through the dark. Beyond the castle, the sea glimmered like iron. Haggard's fortress, Schmendrick murmured, shaking his head in wonderment. Haggard's dire keep. A witch built it for him, they say, but he wouldn't pay her for her work, so she put a curse on the castle. She swore that one day it would sink into the sea with Haggard, when his greed caused the sea to overflow. Then she gave a fearful shriek, the way they do, and vanished in a sulphurous. Haggard moved in right away. He said no tyrant's castle was complete without a curse. I don't blame him for not paying her, Molly Grew said scornfully. I could jump on that place myself and scatter it like a pile of leaves. Anyway, I hope the witch has something interesting to do while she waits for that curse to come home. The sea is greater than anyone's greed. Bony birds struggled across the sky, squealing, "Help me, help me, help me." And the black shapes bobbed at the lightless windows of King Haggard's castle. A wet, slow smell found the unicorn. "Where is the bull?" she asked. "Where does Haggard keep the bull?" No one keeps the bull, the magician replied quietly. I have heard that he roams at night, and lies up by the day in a great cavern beneath the castle. We'll know soon enough, but that's not our problem now. The nearer danger lies there. He pointed down into a valley where a few lights had begun to shiver. That is Hag's Gate, he said. Molly made no answer, but she touched the unicorn with a hand as cold as a cloud. She often put her hands on the unicorn when she was sad or tired or afraid. This is King Haggard's town, Schmendrick said. The first one he took when he came over the sea, the one that has lain longest under his hand. It has a wicked name, though none I have ever met could say exactly why. No one goes into Hag's Gate, and nothing comes out of it but the tales to make children behave. Monsters, werebeasts, witch covens, demons in broad daylight, and the like. But there is something evil in Hag's Gate, I think. Mommy Fortuna would never go there, and once she said that even Haggard was not safe while Hag's Gate stood. There is something there. He peered closely at Molly as he spoke, for it was his one bitter pleasure these days to see her frightened in spite of the white presence of the unicorn. But she answered him quite calmly, with her hands at her sides. I have heard Hag's Gate called the town that no man knows. Maybe its secret was waiting for a woman to find it. A woman and a unicorn. But what's that to be done with you? Oh, I see. I have a message from Plink Smallcraw saying, Hi, Faina. Well, hello, my dear. Thank you for joining me. But what's to be done with you? Schmendrick smiled then. I'm no man, he said. I'm a magician with no magic, and that's no one at all. The foxfire lights of Hag's Gate grew brighter as the unicorn watched them, but not even a flint flared in King Haggard's castle. It was too dark to see men moving on the walls, but across the valley she could hear the soft boom of armor and the clatter of pikes on stone. Sentinels had met and marched away again. The smell of the Red Bull sported all around the unicorn as she stared down the thin, brambly path that led to Hag's Gate. And that concludes Chapter 6 of Peter S. Beagle's The Last Unicorn. Oh, I see Plink Smallcraw had said, doing quite well. A moondoll sent out the summons, so I have arrived. Well, thank you for joining. And I see following. Or joining, not following. And once again, thank you, Moondoll, for being so kind as to raise awareness. But I do hope that none of you feel the need to do so. But it is very kind of you. Now, to end our session for today, I will be drawing another oracle card. deck called Unicorns of Halo Babari. Thank you, Big Mac Cakes. And Radiant Ayumi, it's nice to see you getting so close to affiliate Faina. Thank you, Ayumi. That's so kind of you to say. And Amundal says, it was a very lovely reading. Y'all are all so very kind. But, as I said before, I shall be doing a reading really quickly of an oracle card. So, yesterday, when I finished chapter 5, I had pulled the card for wisdom, as you can see it here. If I can get a grip on it. Here we are. So this was the card, not a barn owl, wisdom. And it is quite fitting for the story because it asks us to truly learn who we are. Yes, Big Mac Cakes, an owl corn. So I will be pulling a different card today to see what might be beneficial in the guidance of all who view me. So I am not, I admit, the most graceful with shuffling these big cards, as they are nearly as big as my hand. So it's a bit difficult to do it gracefully, and I do not wish to bend the cardstock. But I will shuffle and focus on all who are here and pull the card I will be drawn to, as I did last time. Amundal says, you have plenty of grace about you, though I think that is typical of unicorns. Well, thank you, my dear. That is so very kind of you to say. And there is a little bit of pride in my acknowledgement of that statement. So, alright, and I have pulled the card for today. So, let us see what oracle wishes to speak to us today. Ah, how fitting. It is the titular card, not a dragon. Purity. Another quite coincidentally fitting card. So let me see if I can let you get a good look of it. Focus, please. These cards are truly beautiful, and I felt so happy to have discovered them. So, yes, Radiant Ayumi, all of the cards are truly stunning. It took me a long time to find an oracle deck that I felt drawn to, and it's quite convenient that it was the one of unicorns. Star Kami seems to agree with you, Radiant Ayumi. But let us see what purity, not a dragon, has to say to us. As I am not the most familiar with this oracle deck, so as convenient as it is for this story, yesterday we had wisdom asking us to discover who we are truly. Today we have purity. Let us see. Number 1. Purity, not a dragon. Transformation, pardon me. A figure appears before you. Is it a lizard? A bearded dragon? No, it's something more. The dragon unicorn metamorphosizes and appears before your very eyes. Pure white like snow, mythic and filling you with wonder. It is a hearkening back to the days of the dinosaurs. Consciousness on the earth plane in its purest form, back before the dawn of humankind, echoing to the very core of our being and consciousness. Purity, joined by the spirit of the butterfly, as you can see here, in a constant renewal and transformation, behold the dragon unicorn. Meditation. Gently take hold of the wings of the dragon unicorn and allow her to lead you across the sky far and wide. Feel her scales in your hands and see the clouds as they float by. Allow the moment to transform on the wings of a butterfly. Ask the dragon unicorn to show you the essence and purest form of your highest self. Affirmation. In my purest form, I am a mystery within a mystery. I celebrate my incredible nature. Action. In yoga practice, Bhujanga, I know I said that wrong, or cobra pose, invites us to lay on our belly and breathe in deeply, rising upward like a snake and tapping into our inner dragon. Take a few moments to research and enjoy a long stretch in cobra pose, engaging in some deep and pure dragon breaths. So, that is quite wonderfully coincidental that the first day I pulled a card, it told us about wisdom and to learn who we truly are. And now, purity, to revel in who we truly are. How fitting, I would say. So, that is the stream for today. I do thank each and every single one of you who decided to join me on this journey. Now I will say that if you wish to continue to follow me or get more information, I can be found on my Twitter account via the name Fae_works or FaeNath, and I am found by that name across many social media. In my Twitter bio, you will actually find a card info that links you to many different social media accounts, such as my coffee, and I technically have a throne, but you needn't worry about that. I use it more as a universal wish list for myself. But I do also have an Etsy shop where I sell sculptures, art. I even have a VTube model and art dolls up for sale. In fact, I have a summer sale that should still be going on if you wished to check things out. And I also have a YouTube channel where I upload all of my VODs, so if you miss something or wish to rewatch, you can find them on my YouTube channel. And I upload every week, at least once a week. And the first chapter that I read of this book is now premiered on YouTube. So, once again, thank each and every one of you so very much for joining me today. It was wonderful to meet each and every one of you, and to those who decided to follow me, thank you. Thank you so very much for helping me reach affiliate. It would be wonderful to reach affiliate before I get to debut with my live 2D model. That would be such an exciting thing. Big Mac Cake says, happy to be here, look forward to more. Amundal says, have a Gould evening. Star Karma says, I enjoyed my stay. Thank you for the comfy stream. Faye Gamer 1C11 hug. Maybe that's supposed to be an icon. But thank you all, my dears. Blink Small Crawl says, thank you for the stream. Looking forward to more. Well, thank you all. Now, let me see if there is anyone I could potentially raid. If y'all would want me to raid. Oh, this might be... Oh, it's a squirrel hug. I was looking at my chat on my phone, and for some reason it didn't show that. It just showed the code. Thank you, my dear. Alright, how about an art stream from my dear hyena friend, Mal? So give me one moment as I get that going. And let me make sure I spell it correctly. Alright, so here we go. This will be my friend and their art stream. And here we go, my dears. Goodbye.